same thing, that joint. You get up to the joint sometime and it kind of slows down on you. But sometimes it'll want to start to split over to one side. Now I'm going to come down here. See, I got that piece left over from earlier, so might end up with a short cane on the one side. Okay, and even these pieces here, I mean, it's 2 foot long or so. I'll hang on to all that. Never know, you might need a short piece and work it in. So now we've got a quarter. This is quarter size. If that shows up too good, but this is just a quarter of a piece of cane. And this piece came out, it's about 5 foot long. And I don't know if you can see that, if it'll focus on that. But you'll see on the sharp ridges, the inside. And what we're going to do, we're just going to lay that on the board. Just kind of run the knife along there, and it catches, of course, that top rib on both sides. That kind of sticks up, and it just trims that off. Back here where I started, we'll work our way the other way. A lot of times where the joint is where it's going to stick up the highest. You just kind of blow on through that joint. Try not to cut too deep. And there we've got a piece, and see, when you trim that inside piece, now we're pretty flexible. It flexes pretty good. And what we're going to do on top of that, we'll end up we're going to boil. We'll curd these around in a pot, in a kettle, and boil them. And boiling them, well, we'll soften them up some more. So after you boil them, we'll be ready to start wrapping them around the quiver. But you'll take quite a few of these weavers to work your way around the quiver. So you're going to need pretty good handful of these. We're to the point now that we're ready to start working on the ribs. Something I forgot to add earlier was you need a heavy-duty set of edge trimmers, or snippers, I guess you'd call it, to cut the cane with. It works pretty good. Made it a little easier than a knife. What we've got here is 3 pieces of, they're split in half, the rib sections. These are about 7 foot long, and we're not going to need 7 feet. So what we're going to do is trim these to 4 foot, because what we're going to do is take each one of these, we're going to bend in the middle, and it'll make two ribs. The advantage of that is it's easier to hold them together at the base of the quiver as we bring it up. We're going to trim these to 4 feet. You may want it a little bit longer, a little bit shorter, depending on what size arrows that you use. 4 foot, it'll make a quiver about 22-23 inches deep, which is good enough for the arrows that I use. Now we've got our 4 main ribs cut to 4 feet, and now I've got a piece of the heavier cane. Ended up with a short piece because it slid off to on an angle when I was splitting it. But what we're going to do with this one is we want it a little bit longer than 2 foot. We can always trim it later. I'm going to cut it about, say 34. And this is going to make our 9th rib, our separate one. So we have each one of these ribs that are 4 feet. We're going to bend them in half, and each one of these will make 2. So there's going to be 8. 4 pieces will make 8, and then this will be our 9th rib. What we're going to do now is go ahead and put the band in the rib section. And what I'm going to do is take my knife, and I've got this measured right at 2 foot, and so I'm going to go ahead and trim this or thin it just a little bit. It'll make it just a little bit easier to get that bend in there. Don't need to take very much off, because you see already it's starting to get a little bend to it. I'll do that to each one of these. Okay, the way that we want to bend these is if you just put your thumb on both sides and just give it gentle pressure, you'll hear it snap. And what that snap was, if you can see that, it cracked right in the middle, and that's what we want. Now come over just a little bit and kind of extend that crack just a little bit. You can see where I've got it marked in the center there. Now I've got it cracked from here to here, and now you can see it'll lay flat. And we'll add a little moisture to that, and then we can go ahead and make our bend. But do that to all 4 of your 4 foot sections of rib. The item that you're going to need for the base and finishing the top of the quiver is going to be some rawhide, and this is buffalo rawhide. It comes from Centrella, and I believe it was like it's almost 50 foot long, ½ inch wide, and it's hard, and it's hard and dried. And before you can use this, you need to soak it. And I've got about 15 feet or so. I've been soaking since this morning, and you can see it turns white, or a lighter color, I guess. Quite pliable, soft, and you can stretch this out, and when you put this on the base after it dries, it'll pull it up nice and tight, and it keeps your field points, broadheads, etc. from ended up falling through the base of your quiver. Makes a nice tight quiver. Same thing with the top. It'll hold it nice and tight, keep it from your quiver from coming apart. Something else I was wanting to add on your weavers, if you want to add just a little more spice, you can dye some of them. The river cane doesn't take a dye real good. You almost have to like sand the outside. The inside dye's decent, but the outside it doesn't dye real good. But it does get some color, and when the rest of the quiver, when it dries out enough, it'll be a very light tan, and the dye it'll be noticeable. You can tell it. But you can see here, this was dyed with black, and how much you can zoom in there, but you can see it is darker. And then here's some that's red. So we'll put some of that towards the top, maybe put a black and then a red, and then maybe a black, or vice versa. But you can see that up against what the normal color is. I mean, it's pretty light, and it'll stay about the same color. But still something if you want to do that.